Captain, you saw another?
Just one more. Good morning, Africa.
We go to the second report on Thursday when we adjourn. Then we certainly directly need to start, continue on. We turn to paragraph 18, that's on page 15 of the second report. Captain, if I understand the remarks that you made in paragraphs 18.1 and 18.2 correctly, you said that the flow pattern of the one fairly superficial stab wound on my client's left upper chest, above the nipple area, blood that flowed from there, as well as the blood flow from the cut marks on his forearm. That flow did not indicate deviation, and therefore said that means that there could not have been any significant movement of his chest or of his forearm when that flow pattern was created. Is that correct?
That's correct, madam.
Could I just ask you, we can go to Annexure L in your report to those photographs. Annexure L of exhibit triple D2. Captain, if I may this place on record, it might just make it easier for somebody after reads record to understand. And next to, it seems to annexure, to exhibit triple D1, in the same bundle we have annexures A, B, and C. That's a photo of albums. And then next to annexure triple D2, we have the remaining annexures D up until annexure B. That's the way I understand the layout of the two. Is that correct?
That's correct.
We can go to annexure L, which is annexed to triple D2. Perhaps a good photograph to look at would be photo number 75, which is a close-up of this flow pattern, or the one flow pattern is referring to. Now, just a few remarks, Captain, perhaps you can assist me to understand it from Mr. Style as well. It would appear from what we see here that this stab that you've marked with the blue arrow, the first remark one can make is it clearly didn't bleed a lot. It was very minimal bleeding. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Then can I ask you, it would appear to me as if the flow of the blood, for want of a better term, if I can describe it, as a very slightly zigzag pattern as it goes down. What would be the reason for that? What could be the reason for that?
My lord, that could be the reason for the blood drying and then flaking off.
Sorry, drying and
Flaking off.
so the zigzag that we see here, you say that could just simply be as a result of the fact that we're looking at a photograph that was obviously taken much later when the blood had already dried.
That's correct.
Would that not have anything to do with the way in which the blood started to trickle down his chest?
It depends if there's hairs, yeah, it might actually then go beyond.
I was about to ask you if there was like chest hairs that could, because it wasn't a heavy flow, it could slightly deviate as it goes down.
That depends on the adhesion.
And then right at the bottom, just above the left nipple, we can see that there appears to be a slight deviation as we look at it towards the left. What could be a possible reason for that?
For me, in my opinion, there is because of the pooling of the blood.
The pooling of the blood.
Yes.
Is that what is sometimes referred to as a capillary reaction? Because of the blood and the pooling, it pushes it slightly to the one side.
It all depends on the contours of the skin.
Okay. And again, just to, if we can finish this one point, what you are saying, with the way in which this blood flow, you would not have expected a significant movement of the upper body.
That's correct.
But you would agree with me, surely, Captain, that if one has regard to the position of this specific stable, it's not part of one's body that would be prone to twisting and turning like an arm or a limb in any event.
That's correct.
So if you talk about significant movement, I take it what you mean by that, it will literally mean somebody bending over to the left or to the right to cause a deviation of the flow.
If I can refer to his statement that running after the attacker, falling on the stairs,
Yes.
fainting would cause deviations. Yes.
It's just that running,
Running after the attacker,
yes.
he had a severe fall on the staircase, and when he actually fainted on the staircase. That will actually change the upper position of the torso.
Well, let's start with the last two. Do you know which part of my client's body made contact with the stairs when he fell down the stairs?
No, my lord.
Surely that could play a role.
It will definitely have a role in deviation, because then your body angle changes, so the gravity angle changes as well.
Sorry.
When
You
your
just have to
body-
speak about it.
When you're falling, your body position changes, so gravity is no more longer down because you're falling forward, so the
Yes.
gravity point is changing, so the deviation will change.
All right. Now, if he falls and if he was lying on his side, in other words, you would expect a deviation of flow in that direction,
That's correct, yes.
or to the other side.
That's correct.
So again, it would depend on what position he was after he fell.
That's correct.
Right. Then secondly, that holds true of the fainting as well.
That's correct, yes.
Then with regards to the running, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Why would that cause a deviation to the left or the right? Would that not depend on how far you ran or how far you ran?
It all depends on how he was running and what the movement he was actually taking.
Absolutely. Okay. Then if we can turn towards your paragraph 18.2, you're referring to the blood flow patterns on my client's forearm. Again, paragraph number 76 is perhaps a good one to look at.
Paragraph 76, yes.
Now again, these cuts are even more superficial, clearly.
That's correct, yes.
And it creates the impression of, and I think one of the other experts referred to it already, of blood merely just oozing out of those cuts.
That's correct.
And that would have taken some time. It's not something that will flow out at a rate. This is a very slow oozing out, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Now the only one that shows any indication of almost a smear is the one, if we can orientate ourselves with photograph number 73, that is the cut closest to the left hand, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Now what we're looking at there at CS14, these are the only photographs that are available, unfortunately.
That's correct, Madam.
Is that a flow or is that perhaps a smear of the blood?
At first they marked at CS14.
Yes.
To me it's a flow, but there's also smears around.
Smears around as well.
See, there was definitely a disturbance
Yes.
that occurred.
So again, and the disturbance, if we look at 76, would be very close to the area where the skin was broken.
That's good.
Now, again back to 73, although the cuts are, generally speaking, horizontal layout across the forearm, this, and also now, of course, allowing for the fact that you said that it is a bit of a smear as well, this appears to be at about approximately a 45-degree angles in relation to the cut.
That's good.
And again, would you agree with me, allowing for taking into consideration what this would have been a very slow oozing out of the blood, would such a smear, or could such a smear have been caused, for example, by when he fell, brushing his arm against something?
That's correct.
Right, we then can move on, Captain, to the next paragraph of 19. The duvet that was found, and I was asking, the duvet that was found on the floor next to really from what we could see on the photographs, it's clear that duvet must have emanated from my client, from Henny van der Dal's bed originally.
That's correct.
Right, then come to the next one, paragraph 20. That's the bloodstained patterns flow that was observed on the head area of Relief van der Dal.
That's good.
If I can ask you to turn to annexure N, because there is a few annexures on the one we just dealt with. Lord, I'm now again will have to refer to photographs that are pretty graphic and close-ups of the late Relief van der Dal. And we have to turn the first one. Just take this out and shoot my back. Captain, if I understood your evidence on Thursday correctly, you said that dealing with the flow patterns observed on Relief van der Dal's head, and that perhaps just look a little bit more detailed at your paragraph 20.1. If this is read in conjunction with annexure N, and you've actually marked them on some of the paragraphs with yellow arrows, there were three flow patterns that you identified in which you based this statement on, that Relief van der Dal's head must have been slightly raised when those flow patterns were formed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the three that you're referring to are the ones that we see on his forehead, on the left frontal part of the forehead. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you also indicated that Henny van der Dal's head, Relief van der Dal's head partially on a pillow may have been responsible for the slightly raised head. That is, of course, a possibility.
That's correct.
I've seen in your notes where you dealt with that, you said an arm could also have been, he was lying on an arm, it could also have created the same slightly raised head. Correct?
That's correct.
Now, I take it, Captain, that you, as a blood stain pattern analyst, you would not be able to say, by merely looking at the stains themselves, the flows themselves, where they were created. I mean, where in the room. Or you can say the head was slightly raised when they were formed. Do you understand correct?
That's correct, Mark.
And perhaps we can go much faster if I can ask you this as an introductory question about this. And correct me if I'm wrong. You are not saying that they were necessarily created on the bed. You are simply saying they were created when Rudy van Breda was lying in more or less the same position that we see on photograph number 89, but his head was slightly raised when those patterns were formed.
And what the most plausible explanation for the flow patterns created is when you create an injury, your heart is still pumping, so there's blood coming to the surface, so you're creating flow patterns.
Yes.
Now, for instance, you received those blows on the bed, and the flow started on the bed.
Yes.
So that is where you sustain. So that flow is dried, and that's created because there is no other indication that there was any other flow patterns created. So the most plausible explanation is that flow patterns were created while it was still in the bed.
Well, then we will have to examine that more closely. If I can ask you to have regard to perhaps the best photograph that shows this, photograph number 90, as well as photograph number 92. You have that?
Yes.
It would appear from those photographs that his head is touching the base of the bed that we see in that photograph, correct?
That's correct.
If there was still active bleeding at this stage, while he was lying there, and he was lying before he passed away, before he died, he looked like this, with a slightly raised head. Those flow patterns, so that would have given enough of a rise on his head, for those flow patterns to be formed in this position, correct?
That's correct.
Right. Then secondly, Captain, if we look at these flow patterns themselves, let's for purposes of my argument or my question, accept that they were formed while Rudy was still on the bed, lying on the bed with his head on the pillow, slightly raised as you indicated. Having regard to, let's for example have a look at photograph number 91. You would agree with me on photograph number 91, apart from the three flow patterns we see that you have identified, those are the ones closest to his hairline, correct?
That's correct.
We do see a number of other flow patterns on his face, correct?
That's correct.
And those flow patterns, the other flow patterns that we observe, are not all in the same direction as the three on his forehead.
That's correct.
And those other flow patterns must have been created at the time when blood was flowing over those respective areas and his head was in a different position.
That's correct.
If you look again at excuse me, photograph number 94. We again see there are only two arrows, but obviously the one closest to his left eye, that's also one of the flow patterns that we've identified, correct?
That's correct.
But we do see from the mouth, on the right hand side of the mouth, the flow pattern indicating a different direction, correct?
You want to be talking about the one going up the side?
Yes.
This one here?
Yes.
This is when I turned you.
Sorry?
This is when I turned you.
You said that one was formed when you turned it.
That's correct, yeah, there was blood coming out of his mouth.
Right, and then almost touching that one, closer to the ear, there's another flow pattern in a different direction.
That's That's correct.
And we can see on his chin as well, different flow patterns in different directions.
That's correct.
And also the nose area on both sides indicate flow patterns in different directions.
That's correct.
Can I just ask you this, are these flow patterns, leaving aside the one that you say was created when you turn his body, which of those flow patterns were created first?
You can't say that.
You can't say that. It is, for example, possible that the ones that I just referred to you, one or more of those, that they were created before the ones in the forehead.
No, I wouldn't agree there, my lord.
Sorry?
No, I wouldn't agree there because the ones created to me on the forehead, in my opinion, was created first because of the bleeding process on the bed, my lord.
Are you
And the other ones are most probably created when Rudy from Breda was moved.
Are you stating it as a fact that you are of the view that there's no possibility of the other flow patterns could be created before the three on the forehead?
It is my opinion that the three ones that I'm showing there, the flow patterns were created first, and during the movement of Rudy from Breda, the others were created.
Okay.
That is my opinion.
If I can ask you to turn to photograph number 91, please. The flow pattern closest to his hairline appears to, if one has regard to the photograph, to have emanated from the impact that we can see that is the closest to the top of his skull. Correct. It appears like.
There is a couple of injuries thrown.
Yes. Are you saying that you don't know where it emanated from?
Because the blood, the hair of Rudy van der Daar is soaked there, so you can't really determine from which wound it actually came.
Okay. So one can only say that one did work with the flow patterns that we see on the area of his head where there's no hair.
That's correct.
Okay.
And
Well, if we then concentrate only on that area, Captain, I see on those three lines, the first two appears to be, in generally speaking, the same direction, but the lowest two appears to be a split to the one side and then the other side. What would have caused that difference in flow pattern, one slightly upwards on the skull and one slightly downwards?
that could be due to the saturation of the hair and the blood falling different pathways.
So you have a tendency to drop your voice, I can't hear you.
It depends on the contours of the face and also of the hair, which was saturated. But
Okay,
the flow patterns is in general same direction.
Yes, now that might be so, but you agree with me that one with regard to that, where those two flow patterns start at the hairline, correct?
That's correct.
And where they start, they clearly flow in two different directions.
That's correct.
I'm asking you again, there's no hair there. What would have caused that? What could have caused that?
That could have been slightly the movement of the head while impacting because he received multiple blows. It could have changed his head slightly.
Yes.
It could have changed that flow pattern.
So
And also the saturation of the blood onto the hair as well.
yes. So there could have been a number of reasons or explanations for the change of the blood flow right there.
That's correct.
Because you would agree with me if you had placed the similar arrows like you did on photograph number 94. Look at 94. You look at these flow patterns. If you had to put them on photograph number 91, they would clearly indicate, at least for the first part, a change of flow patterns. The one closest to the top of the skull going in one direction, then the next one flowing slightly upwards and then making a change again. And I would take it that would simply be following the contours of the head at that stage, correct?
That's correct.
And the other one going slightly downwards again, away from the one closest to it, and then again at some stage starting to follow the contours of the head.
That's correct.
Okay, now again, having regard to photograph number 91, what in this photograph indicates to you that these three flow patterns were created first, especially in light of the fact that you told us that we can't say from where they emanate. We can only see them on his forehead.
It's like I explained now, is when he sustained his injuries first. The bleeding started from that specific wounds. There's no other flow patterns there. And also, if you look at that photograph number 91, when I lifted a head, and it's referred to in the literature as well, when you've got a flow pattern and it goes towards the surface of the floor, you would just expect to find some form of accumulation of blood underneath there, or a saturation. In this case, it will be a saturation because it's fabric underneath him. And there was no saturation of the blood and there was no pooling of blood. So those flows there were not created while he was in that position. And in that position.
Do you want me to repeat my question?
I heard your question.
No, but then you didn't answer my question, Inspector. Let me put it to you again. I asked you, how can you state that these flows, the three flows, were created first because they emanated from those injuries that Rudy sustained, where in a similar vein, why I asked you initially, did one come from the cut? You said no. All you can say is that blood was flowing on the part of his head that is not covered by hair. So we don't know from which injury these three flows are emanating, correct?
My Lord, as like when Dr. Hanson also testified, he said the position of the victim was on his right side, in his face towards, facing away from the attacker. And he sustained that injury as well, being in that position. And that trauma was created, you would start seeing blood flow coming to the surface, and you will start seeing flow patterns. Now, in my opinion, those flow patterns were created first. Because there was no movement, or very little movement, of Rudy van Breda being in that specific position, and the blood had time to dry. And when he was moved, other flow patterns could be created. And that's
but if he, after he received the first blow, we don't know in what direction his head moved. Sure.
Well, the flow patterns would have made a significant change if he actually changed the head.
And I said, when he, on the moment of receiving the first blow, do we know which blow did he receive first?
We don't know that.
Right. Now, when he received the first blow, do we know, really looking at the blood patterns and blood spatter, do we know which way he directed, he moved his head? Whether he turned his head slightly towards the back of the head?
We don't know that.
We don't know that. He could have done that as well.
That's possible.
And if he had done that, the blood from the blows would have flown to the back of his head.
That's correct.
And we do see that there's some significant flow towards the back and the back of the neck of it.
That's correct.
So again, it comes back to my question, Captain. Given the fact that we don't know, and it was your areas, we don't know from which injury or injuries these flow patterns on the forehead emanate from. Then I'd like to know and understand from you why you are saying that those three flow patterns were created first.
That's the most plausible explanation for it.
But I've just given you
taking into consideration every physical evidence within context of the crime scene.
But Captain, I've just given you another explanation, and you seem to agree with it. Let me put it to you again. If Rudy van Breda, after the first blow, changed his head position, and you say it's impossible to say whether he did or did not. If he changed his position, the blood could have flown after the first blow in a different direction. Not so.
That's correct.
For example, if he had turned his head slightly upwards, it would have flown away towards the rear part of his head.
That's correct.
And towards his neck area.
That's correct.
Right. Now, given that evidence of yours, I'm putting it to you as a statement, and want your comment on this, that you cannot emphatically say that these three blood flow patterns we see was created first when one have regard to the numerous flow patterns that we see on his head. That's all I'm saying.
I do agree with you, but I'm just saying that those three flow patterns there was created while he was lying on his right side.
No, let me just put that to you. Mr. Stale will agree with you on that. I have no debate with you, but that the question that whether he was lying on his right hand side when they were created. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Mr. Stell says that's correct. Mr. Stell also agrees with you that at least some of those flows, the direction of them would be explained by a slightly raised head. That's what you also say, correct?
That's correct.
What where we do seem to have a debate about is when and where they be created. For example, if you can go to photograph number 88. It's in the same bundle. It's the part of the annexure M, photograph 88. You have that in front of me?
That's correct.
Now we forget for the time being whether it was active or passive bleeding. We see significant bleeding on the floor in what you refer to as the complex pattern and that you marked as B20, correct?
That's correct.
So we know from what we can see here, and that's how I understood your evidence, that Rudy van Breda must have been bleeding in this while he was at a different position than the one we see where he was eventually found, correct?
That's correct.
While he was lying there, if he was lying there with his head on his arms in a slightly raised position, whether it was active or passive, could those three flow patterns have been created there?
It is possible.
Right. Now, let me just quickly examine that slightly further. Whether he was bleeding at this position as a result of active bleeding, others still being alive and bleeding, or passive bleeding, those blood flows there would also have created a flow pattern. Correct?
My lord, for the flow patterns to be created by just gravity flow, it should have been on his back.
So let's say again.
For the gravity flow, he should have been on his back for gravity flow to occur. Because when your heart stops beating, your blood goes to the lowest part of your body.
Yes.
Towards the level of the floor, and then there wouldn't been any seepage out of that specific wounds because that was not the lowest part of his body.
Okay. So what you are saying is if he was lying there in a similar position, head slightly raised, as you postulate, which is necessary for those specific three flow patterns to have been created, you would agree then he must have been alive at that stage. So he must have been active on. Correct?
Yes.
Right. The white patterns that we see on photograph number 88, would you agree with me that those were probably created by movement, whether it's himself or somebody else moving it, the forearms and arms and limbs of Rudy van Breda?
That's correct.
If he was lying on his back, it would have been very difficult for those flow patterns to have been created. Otherwise, if he remained on his back the entire time while he was passively bleeding, you would not expect those white patterns there.
That all depends. Because
Please explain to me how would somebody with
if
his
you were lying on
arms,
your back in passive breathing and you turn around, due
Yes.
to what movement, whatever, you will actually then create other patterns over the existing patterns.
right? But
And we also agreed at one point, and it was testimony that for the plug pattern on the back of his neck area, the only way that he could have sustained that was being on his back at one stage.
well, either on his back or his back pressing towards that plug, because it would appear that the plug was probably still plugged into the socket that we see there, correct?
It's a possibility, yes.
Yes. But let's forget about that. I'm coming back to your statement. You say we're examining the possibility that Rudy van der Daar was lying on his back for an extended period of time to have created this amount of passive bleeding at B20. If he was lying on his back, we could not have expected different white patterns in the blood.
There was a lot of movement in that blood stain, my lord, so I can't say.
But that's my point. If there was a lot of movement in this blood stain here, and you also have indicated that the most probable cause of that would have been his forearms, then you would have expected him to be the other way around, not on his back. That's all I'm saying.
Well, for the last half of that specific stain, you can see he was in the position like he was finally in, because you can see the forearm making contact with the floor.
I understand that. I'm talking about the complex pattern itself. He must have been bleeding. Let's start there, Captain. He must have been bleeding at a different place. His head must have been, his body must have been closer to, for example, towards that shoe that you see.
That's good, yes.
Right. Now, while he was there, bleeding, what I'm saying to you, having regard to the white patterns, it appears to us, and those are my instructions from Mr. Stale, that this indicates somebody who was not on his back, but on his forward front part, with his arms moving and creating those white patterns on the probability sheet.
That's good.
You accept it? Okay. Then, again, we are still examining the possibilities because the court needs to make findings about it at the end of the day. Let's assume for purposes of what I'm asking you now, that there was this passive bleeding and he was lying on his back and he literally bled out. He was already dead. In order for those transfer patterns to have been created that you identified,
the way that is lying next to Rudy, did that make those white or white patterns or not?
No, my lord.
it was actually a question that I was going to ask just now. No, with these. Captain, perhaps again this photograph 88, we can just use that as a, well, you know what I'm talking about, the two, there seems to be, in fact, actually three transfer patterns against the wall. The one above the plug, correct?
That's correct.
And then there's one closest to the plug and then one closer to the entrance to the bathroom, and that also appears to be two separate ones.
That's correct.
Right. And you've also testified and said that just for purpose of record, those two transfer patterns, you refer to them as B21 and B22.
That's correct.
You've indicated that the most probable explanation for this was that the blood, the hair of Rudy van der Daar, which had blood in it, made contact with the wall on those separate positions.
That's correct.
And again, that is something that Mr. Stale also agreed with. He said it's the most probable, most obvious explanation for this. But now, we also know that Rudy van der Daar's hair was fairly short. He didn't have long hair. Correct?
That's correct.
If he was passively bleeding at the area where we see here at B20, he must have remained in that position if it was passive bleeding for some time to create that much bleeding, that much blood.
That's
Correct?
good, yes.
Now, if he was already incapacitated or dead when B21 and B22 was created, it means that somebody must have lifted him up physically and pushed his head against those positions. Correct?
That's correct.
Now, I can understand, Captain, if you want to regard to, maybe perhaps I should ask you this, you didn't deal with it specifically, but the transfer pattern above the plug, could that also have been as a result of his head, pushing against the wall?
That's possible.
If his head was pushed there, And again his head was pushed at the transfer pattern right next to the plug. Where did the blood come from? Blood to create the two transfer patterns we see right next to the entrance of the bathroom.
It's from the head injuries.
But at that stage, if he was really dead, he's dead out.
Yeah, but he would have already have a blood-soaked side of his head.
Yes, but Captain, with respect, if one has regard to, and try and find it quickly, if one has regard to the close-up photographs of those transfer patterns, one can clearly see, let's start with one on the plug. There was enough blood still there to cause blood flowing down, gravity and slight pulling on the top of the plug, correct?
That's correct.
We have a similar, the transfer stain closest to the plug, that's also a fair amount of blood that was transferred there, correct?
That's correct.
And then the two on the side, again, enough blood transferred onto the wall that it created this gravity flow and there was a slight pulling on the skirting, the wooden skirting, correct?
That's correct.
Would you have expected that much blood to be transferred from somebody that was already dead and has bled out as much as we see at B20 to have caused those transfer patterns given the length of his head?
That's possible, madam.
You would agree with me that those transfer patterns would be consistent with something that was still actively bleeding.
It's also possible.
Now, again, we dealt with this last week as well. On the scenario that you are postulating about Rudy van Breda already being dead and being moved around and his head being pushed against the wall, that could only then have been my client who done that. Because there's nobody else around on this version, correct?
That's correct.
Could you explain how my client would have been able to do that? Sorry, let me ask you this again. If Rudy was already dead at that stage, it would have meant that somebody would have to lift him up probably around his upper body to be able to push his head against the wall on at least 3 places, possibly 4.
It's possible.
Sorry?
It's possible.
I mean, which other way would he have been? It could only be
Explain it,
surely.
yes.
Yes,
Explain.
surely. In order to be able to do that, it meant that my client would have been standing with at least one, probably 2 of his feet, his sock-clad feet, right in this pool of blood. Surely.
It all depends on how I was standing.
Sorry?
I can't tell what the position of
No,
the...
but Captain, with respect, you were on the scene. Have regard to photograph 88. I'm going to put it to you. Now I'm going to argue that you're welcome to comment on it. I want to argue that it would have been impossible for somebody to be able to push a dead person's head against the positions on the wall without standing in the blood. Without standing in the blood. Without stepping into the blood stain, B20. It was simply too far away. You couldn't, for example, be standing on the carpet and leaning over. It's just simply too far.
Do you agree?
You agree? Okay. You also have, first of all, you were not able to find, nor do I understand from any other experts that were called the shoe print expert, for example. You did not find any blood stains on the floor that could have been created by a blood-soaked sock. Correct?
That's correct.
And we also know, if I understand it correctly, Captain, that the blood stains that were found on my client's socks, those ones are all on the top or on the side and on the rear of the socks. Correct?
That's correct.
In fact, what we did on Friday, we had access to Exhibit 119, and we still in it was still in the original sealed evidence bag, and with the assistance of Sergeant Adams, who I see is in court here today, he assisted us, and he opened up and we took photographs and examined it in his presence. And I can put it to you that it's very clear from those socks that all the blood stains that you identified were the ones that you encircled, it looks like with some kind of marker, a bluish marker, correct?
That's correct.
And that underneath these socks, there simply is no blood.
That's correct.
You,
But if I might say to my Lord, we don't know whether or not B20, that complex pattern, was created first, or stain B21 and B22 was created. So we don't know the sequence. So you could have actually, by moving Rudy from the bed and immediately create B21 and B21 and B22 before creating that massive stain at B20. So that's also a possibility that we need to consider this. And that will also then result in a person not actually having blood on his socks.
Okay, well, let's examine that then, Captain, if that is what you postulated. From B20, you indicated to us that this person must have been lying, Rudy must have been lying with his head round about the vicinity of the running shoe we see there, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Well, if the stains on the wall first occurred, and he was then already dead, and then thereafter he was placed in that position, he was bled out, how did my client then manage to move him to his final resting position without then stepping into the blood at that stage?
Well, there was blood stains on his lower legs. It could possibly indicate with regards to taking him by the feet and actually dragging him. That's also a possibility.
There were blood stains on whose lower legs?
On Rudy van Breda.
Sorry?
On Rudy van Breda.
So you're suggesting that from that final position there, in photograph 88, you are suggesting that the Rudy van Breda was dragged by his feet to the position we see him here.
Final position, yes. It's
Where
a
do we see
possibility.
those drag marks in the blood, Captain?
The movement of the
B20.
arms. We see it in the movement of the arms. The left forearm that made contact, it's movement.
Captain, I want to put it to you, and that I checked with Mr. Studd as well. He said, if Rudy van Breda was dragged around in B20, you would have had a very clear and distinct drag pattern there, and that's not here. I want to put it to you, that will be his evidence. Do you disagree with that, or do you agree with it?
There's lots of possibilities. Because there was a lot of movement, my Lord, in that specific pattern.
I'm sorry?
There's a lot of possibilities. There was a lot of movement in that area.
That may be so. I'm asking you and inviting you to point out to the court where that drag mark is, if we look at photograph 88, that would indicate as a possibility that Rudy van Breda was dragged from that position where he was lying with his head close to his running shoe to his final resting position.
I cannot explain the first two-thirds of that specific state. But the last third, there we can clearly see the drag marks.
So the first two-thirds you can't explain.
That's correct.
Well, let's deal with it then. How did he get from the first two marks to his final resting position?
That I can't explain. It could be due to handling of the victim. The handling of the victim, my Lord, I can't say.
But Captain, if it was handled, where did the person stand who was handling it?
I can't say that, my Lord.
He must have been standing in the blood, surely. There's no
If there
doubt
were
about
blood, if there were blood in that area, yes.
Yes, but we've just
But we
been
don't
busy.
know that.
No, Captain, with respect. We are examining your evidence as another possibility. You said to the court, when I confronted you and say, but how did somebody who was already bleeding, how did that person manage to push Rudy van Breda's head on 3 positions against the wall? You remember that evidence?
That's correct.
You then said to his lordship, well, clearly, with respect, when you realized that person must have been standing in the blood, you said, well, we don't know whether those stains against the wall, they may have been created first. That was your evidence, correct?
That's correct.
You then said as a possibility that thereafter, Rudy van Breda was then moved and left in that position where his head would have been fairly close to the running shoe and left to bleed out, correct?
That's correct.
Right. And then thereafter, you said he was then dragged from that position to his final resting position, correct?
That's correct.
Now we know he's already bled out. And then you said, and on my question, where do we see the drag marks? And you said, well, cannot account for drag marks in the first 2/3 of that blood stain, but I do see in the last third of that blood stain something that indicates to me that there could have been dragging, correct?
That's correct.
Right. Now to come back to my question then again, where did the person stand on this possible scenario that dragged Rudy van der Gaar from that position to his final rest position? He must have been standing in the blood. No question about it. Not so?
That's correct.
Well,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Look, I've just taken it through on both occasions the blood, whether the one was first, the second, the blood must have been there. That's the point I'm making. Correct. Yeah? And if he was dragging, standing in the blood, you would have expected to have blood, to find blood on my client's socks underneath. Correct.
That's correct.
And we know that it's not there.
That's correct.
Right. Can I ask you this as well, Captain? Did you find any bloody hand marks on the body of Rudy van der Gaar, indicating that somebody with had blood in the hands handled his body?
No, my lord, only smear marks.
Sorry?
Only smear marks. And that means that there was an object with blood that made contact with the skin of Rudy van der Gaar.
But those smear marks could have been caused with his body moving through the blood that you see at B20.
That's correct, yes.
We also know as a fact, this is not so, Captain, that on the bottom of the axe handle, there was no, where we know my client handled the axe, there was no blood of Rudy van der Gaar found there.
That's correct.
The only blood that was found at the bottom of the axe handle is that of my client, his own blood.
That's correct.
Can I just ask you this, Captain, before you wrote your reports, did you discuss the question of whether Rudy was immediately incapacitated or dead as a result of his injuries with Dr. Anthony?
No, my lord.
Did you not deem it prudent to have discussed it and get her expert opinion as a doctor on this? On the doctor who did the inquest? The autopsy.
The only information I had available was the post-mortem report, and there was no mention towards a time period for being alive after sustaining his injuries.
Because, Captain, had you taken the trouble of speaking to her, she would have said to you that, and you probably would have noticed that in the stomach of Rudy van der Gaar, a small amount of blood was found.
That's correct.
Now both her, Dr. Anthony and Dr. Penable says for blood to get into the stomach requires active swallowing.
That's correct.
And had you spoken to her, she would also have said to you that it was quite possible that Rudy could have been alive for as long as 2 hours and 40 minutes after he sustained the injuries.
That's correct. That's according to the...
Then something else that I'm not sure about exactly how you, as a blood spatter, blood stain analyst basis on, you said the injuries towards Rudy indicated that the attacker was very angry, displayed a lot of anger towards Rudy. On which blood stain analysis do you base that statement?
My lord, it's not a blood stain pattern analysis, it's a crime scene. Because as a crime scene technician myself for 24 years of my life, and I've done thousands of crime scenes, we go to a crime scene and we do actually do reconstruction, and we do analysis on the scene as well.
Are you, as a crime scene analyst, able to examine a crime scene and then determine the emotions of the attacker?
No, it is just as an opinion.
Sorry?
It's just an opinion, it's not based on facts, my lord. It's like a testify.
Well, then thank you for that. Now we can move on. If you're saying that simply a personal remark, an opinion you make.
That's correct, yes.
You're not,
Because I've informed the court when I testified that I'm not a behavior analyst, so just an opinion that I raised.
okay, all right. Then we should see it in other words in that light. You're not.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's based on your speaking.
That's correct, my lord.
If I understand you, all you're saying is that you received a fair amount of blows, I think 5 to 7, is that correct?
That's correct.
In fact, if I remember correctly, that was slightly less than what Murray, the injury at Murray sustained.
That's correct.
Right, Captain, then I think we can move on. If I can ask you to turn your report to paragraph 21. That's the blood-stained spatter observed against the adjacent house wall, the wall of the neighbouring property. We really dealt with that. You've said it could be either one of those two, and we can move on with that. Then in paragraph 22.4, that we can move there. So we're still busy with exhibit DD2. I beg your pardon. Again, maybe there's a very brief way in which we can deal with it. In paragraph 22.4, you said, Martin van der Daar, it's my opinion, the victim was most probably attending to his son, Rudy van der Daar, in bed when he was attacked by the suspect. And then you also, at a later stage, in paragraph 22.4.3, on the next page, 19 or 30, you indicate that that the attack indicates to you that it was a surprise attack, as Martin van der Daar didn't have time to react to the attack. You've had regard now to my client's description in his plea explanation how his father was it.
That's correct.
In other words, that the father came into the room, lunged across the bed on which Rudy was lying towards the attacker, and as he lunged across, he got hit to the back of the head and received a few further blows while he was lying there.
That's correct.
From what you could see on the scene, is there anything that contradicts that statement?
No, my lord.
So if you say surprise, you're simply basing that on the fact that there were no defensive wounds on.
It's just one possibility, my lord.
Because I can put it to you as well that when Dr. Anthony testified, I put that exact proposition to her. She said that the injuries are consistent with the way which my client described that attack. You happy with that?
It's possible, yes.
Okay. Then, in paragraph 22.6, Captain, there, and this goes on towards paragraph 22.7.3, that is about the possible position of Teresa van der Daar when she was attacked. Can I just again, perhaps we can deal with it in summary. Do I understand you correctly? What you are basically saying that Teresa van der Daar was attacked in close proximity to the entrance door of this specific bedroom where Rudy and Martin were found.
That's correct.
You're not putting her an exact position on her because I would suspect that would be impossible.
That's correct.
And then with regards to Muddy Fiberdal, again, would it be correct to say that you as a blood spatter analyst determined that she must have been attacked, again, also in close proximity to the entrance of the bedroom door?
That is a possibility. Yes.
And in regards to both Teresa and Marley, if I say close proximity, obviously not inside the room, just outside of the room.
That's correct.
Then, Captain, can I ask you to turn to page 21 of your report exhibit D2, where you were dealing with my client's statement as taken down by Sergeant Malan. Again, I'm going to try and do it in summary. You have now had regard to my client's plea explanation, where he states that he was in the vicinity of his own bed, the bottom part of his bed. Not exactly, he does not show exactly where and whether he remained static through the entire period, but that was more or less where he was when his brother was attacked and then his father was attacked.
That's correct.
And I think we've dealt with that on Thursday as well. That would be consistent with the spatter stains that you observed on his sleeping trunks and his socks.
In close proximity.
Yeah, in close proximity, yes. It was difficult, there were no exact measurements taken, but we had to take a guesstimate. In other words, anywhere between 1.5 to 2 meters.
That's correct.
And then paragraph 27.1.1.5, no, we dealt with that already, sorry, beg your pardon. And then 27.1.1.6, where you deal with the attacker Martin from Breda. Again, you're simply saying that you, at the time, referred to it as a surprise attack because of the lack of defensiveness. But you did not find anything based on blood spatter analysis that is inconsistent with my client's description of how his father was attacked.
That's correct. Yes.
Then your comments on paragraph 27.1.3, which is paragraph 7 of my client's statement, that is with regards to the knife. I put it to previous witnesses as well. My client's version, I'm talking about after he received the stab, that he removed the knife with the hand holding the axe, grabbed the blade of the knife with his finger positioned towards the handle and pulled it and dropped it. You would recall that there was my client's fingerprint, thumb fingerprint was found on the blade of the knife in the direction of the handle.
That's correct.
And that way in which I described to you now what had happened, that would be consistent with the fingerprint that was found on the blade of the knife.
That's possible.
And you've also placed on record as well, we've dealt about that, with that my client's blood was found on the bottom of the axe handle, and again, had he handled the knife and there would have been bleeding on the side of his body, that could explain the transfer of his blood onto the handle of the axe.
That's correct.
While we are on that, Captain, there's something I just forgot to ask you. Could I ask you just to go back again to Annexure L, the injuries my client, photograph number 74 indicates the injury to the side. My Lord, I beg your pardon, that's again the annexure to exhibit D2. Captain, you would agree with me that, again, first of all, we are obviously looking at a blood stain that is flaked outcomes off considerably. Correct?
That's correct.
But we do see some flow patterns, and there are different flow patterns. Directional. I'm talking about the direction.
That's correct, yes.
Correct?
I can see a marked, but it's very difficult to say whether or not it's actually flow pattern or created during the medical intervention.
Well, Captain, that with respect we can see, because if you look at the bandage right next to it, it would appear that if there was a transfer, if the blood was still liquid enough to transfer onto the bandage, I'm talking about the blood surrounding the injury.
Yeah, that's correct.
That would have transferred there, is it correct?
Yes. And as far as I know, when the two first responders got to the house, Henry from the dog was in a sitting position at the front door.
Yes.
Correct. So it could have also created some change in flow patterns.
It could have, of course, it happened then, but of course, those stains would have occurred clearly initially when the blood was still liquid.
That's correct, yes.
And we also find, for example, very clearly on this photograph, blood stains above the injury.
That's correct, yes.
Again, that would indicate some kind of either smear or contact onto this wound.
That's correct, yes.
Then, Captain, if we can continue, paragraph 27.1.3.1, that's the spatter blood stains that you found on the knife. We dealt with that again already. We don't have to deal with that again. Then paragraph 27.1.3.2, that deals with exhibits S34 and S35. Those were two transfer patterns that were found on the floor of the bathroom. You recall that?
That's correct, yes.
Perhaps we can just have a quick look at those transfer patterns. If I can ask you in exhibit A, to go to page 336, please. I beg your pardon, 339 and 340. Exhibit A339 indicates the position of those two transfer patterns, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And if I understand it correctly, these two were initially identified as possible shoe prints. Because they were marked as S with the S numbers.
Oh, yes, that's correct.
Which is I cannot recall the gentleman's rank again, but Mr. Van Westhuizen, the shoe print expert, testified. Captain. He indicated, if we can have just a closer regard to S33 and S34, he said that he was not in a position to state under oath that either one of those two marks were actually shoe prints. He simply doesn't know what caused them.
That's correct.
Now, in your paragraph 27.1.3.2, you deal with this and you say, in the last sentence of that paragraph, at no stage did any from the guard return to the bathroom after the incident for the accidental transfer of blood from the bedroom floor to the bathroom by his feet or an object, according to his statement. And this is deal with his feet again first. You would agree with me, Captain, that those marks were made by my client's feet. Again, one would have expected fairly significant blood stain underneath the socks.
That's correct.
And you're aware of the fact that there was no blood stain, significant blood stain, no blood stain underneath your socks.
That's correct.
So we can exclude that possibility.
That's correct.
Can I just ask you, when you made this statement in December, were you not aware of the fact that there was no blood underneath the socks? Or were you aware of the fact?
It could have been, what I said about accidental transfers, it could have been a cloth, it could be anything. But I wasn't aware about making that statement toward, from the start off, I didn't actually think it was actually a sock that made it.
It could have been a lot of things.
That's
what
correct.
What I want to ask you is, at the time when you made this statement that we are dealing with now, Exhibit BBB2, that was the beginning of December 2015, at that stage, were you aware of the fact that there was no blood stains underneath my client's socks?
That's correct.
If that is so, then why did you postulate that this is a possibility that either one of these two stains could have been formed by his feet? If that's not possible in the vision.
Now that states, it's, no, I actually included it for one specific reason, because it could have been an object on the feet. It's a possibility, but from now on I can actually exclude that possibility.
Okay. Well, let's just finish this one point.
Will you be wrong with this?
No. I will be. Difficult to say, maybe another half an hour or so, 40 minutes.
So we can adjourn for that.
Yeah. Captain, what I can say to you, if you have, in Exhibit A, if you turn to trying to find the clearest picture. Exhibit 336. At the entrance, this one I'm trying to find a more clear. Got to go on the 330 is actually available. Exhibit 330 is a shoe print S30. You're probably aware of the fact, I take it, that Captain van der West Station identified this as a shoe print that had of which the pattern underneath was consistent with the, excuse the word, tackies that were worn by Constable Martin. You aware of that?
That's correct, huh?
So it would appear from this that Constable Martin at some stage must have stepped into blood and he created this blood stain. And it's a very distinctive sort of a wave pattern, you see that.
That's correct, yes.
Having regard to that, please turn to page A349. That is S33, the one print. The marking, the transfer pattern on the bathroom floor. It's photograph 340. Just a close-up of S33. You got it?
Yes, I got it.
Now, Mr. Studd, who I tell you also know is an expert on shoe prints.
That's correct.
He has indicated that what he found there, that the markings on S33 are also similar to the wavy pattern found underneath the shoes of Constable Martin. And it could possibly be made by him. It's the only explanation he can give for S33. He could find based on the information at his disposal. I tell you, you will not be able to comment on that one idea.
My lord, I'm not a shoe print expert, so no, I won't be able to.
Now, if you for the purpose of my follow-up question, except because we now know that Constable Martin did step into blood, because we saw the Captain van Westhuizen and Mr. Stella agrees with me that at the entrance to this house, into this room, we know that he must have stepped into blood. We see the baby pattern of his tattoos. Can we, on anything that you are aware of, exclude the possibility that Constable Martin was not responsible for these S33?
In my expertise, my lord, I mean, if you would actually step into blood, you would expect to find repetition. So, in that specific vicinity, you would expect to find repetition of that specific pattern until the blood is diminished from the soul area. But you only see the one pattern. And
Yes. Does it all, of course, depend on which one of his shoes
that's correct.
was the stain of the blood?
Yes, that's
Sure. Firstly. And secondly, that depends on where he took his next step.
That's correct.
But again, can I ask you, do you know of anything that you can exclude that reasonable possibility?
Normally.
And if we have regard to that, if we turn the page to S34 on 342, both Captain van Westhuizen and Mr. Stell will agree with me, says that there is simply not enough detail in this stain, this blood stain, to draw any conclusion as to what caused it.
That's correct.
But what you would agree with me, Captain, those stains, based on that, would not necessarily be made by my client. And most certainly not on his feet.
That's correct. Yes.
Will, would that be the time to take?
Right,